Okay, in this lesson we're going to talk about synchronous versus asynchronous programming. We're going to start out just kind of understanding what synchronous means. I'm going to write just a real simple program here. We'll write 3 lines. Alright, so I have 3 lines. I'm just simply logging 3 3 statements here. It's very simple. Just to prove one point, you could run this program a million times, and what you're going to see is 1, 2, and 3. You would never see 3 first, or 2 first, or 1 last, or any other combination of this. It's always going to be 1, 2, 3, because Node's going to guarantee, or guaranteed, that it's going to go in order, because this is synchronous. These are synchronous lines of code, and they will be displayed. They will be run one at a time. For example, this line runs and blocks everything else until it's done, and then the second line runs and blocks everything else until it's done, and then the third line runs and blocks everything else until it's done. Again, this is synchronous programming. 1, 2, 3. Now let's explore some problems with synchronous programming. Let's just say we have a while loop. Excuse me. Let's say we're going to run a while loop on a really big number. X is less than. I did that wrong. Let's just say that needs to be 0. And we're just going to say x plus equals 1. Okay, so basically we got a big loop here. That's going to loop a whole bunch of times. And this particular line of code is going to take some time. So let's kind of find a way to uDate.getTime like this. So we're going to log the date, the time, before we start that long-running function, and then we're going to log it afterwards as well. Okay, and let's do this. Let's see what happens when we do this. So what you're seeing is that the first line displayed the time, and then we ran this long-running operation, and then some milliseconds later, the second time went. So just to give you an idea, when we run this, you'll see without that long-running operation, there's only about 3 milliseconds there between this one and that one. Between this line and this line, there's 3 milliseconds. And if I run this several times, you'll see there's 3 milliseconds, there's 3, there's 2 milliseconds. So it's kind of a varying 2 to 3 milliseconds it takes to get from here to there. But when I throw this in, you can see that it will take much longer. So this while loop is a long-running operation. Here you can see from 163 all the way to 215. So this took a long time. Okay, and so this ran and blocked until it was done, but it didn't block for very long, a couple milliseconds. This ran and blocked for 100 and some odd milliseconds. Okay, so this is a long-running operation, and this could not run. This line right here couldn't go until all this was done. Okay, so let's do this. Let's create a function and stick this in a function. We'll just say long run, and we'll just take this, stick it up here. Okay, so it's just doing the same thing. We're just putting it in a function, and we're going to call this function right here. Okay, and this the behavior of our program shouldn't change. It's just we have a function that is the long-running function. You can see. Then what we can do is we can say, okay, we just put a little console.log, and we'll say done. That way it'll kind of tell us, kind of like to know when it's done. And so sure enough, oops, I did something wrong here. Spelled something wrong. There we go. So you can see that we displayed the time, we did the loop, and we kind of displayed that we're done, and then we display the time again, and there's many milliseconds between the start and the end. So this long-running function right here is running synchronously, and it's important that this function blocks. Nothing can run until it's done. Okay, and so in programming, there are times when we would like to have this function run and not block. And what that means is that this long-running function would run in the background or run when nothing else is happening. And so the question is, how do we accomplish this? Well, there's several ways to do this, and I'm going to show you one of those. And in JavaScript, there's this function called setTimeout. And what we can do is we can use this setTimeout function to make this long-run function be asynchronous. And so on the setTimeout, it takes two parameters. The first is the function that you want to call. And so I'm going to create the function that I want to call. And let's see here. I'm going to do this. And the function happens to be right there. So we'll kind of straighten it up a little bit. Get my tabbing correct. And then right in here is a 0. Okay? And what this setTimeout function does is it'll wait until there's nothing on the call stack, and then it will perform this. It'll basically do what this function needs to do. And so now what we can do, let's run this, and what you'll see is that this line ran, blocked, and finished. The long run ran but didn't block because we have the setTimeout in here. It did not block, and it didn't finish. And then this line ran. Okay, and then after this line finished, this line blocked and finished, and then this actual function ran. And we can see that because here's the first time and the second time, which was 2 milliseconds, and then we got the done message, which was inside here. So this is an example of asynchronous programming. The long-running function didn't block the rest of the code. It ran in the background when there was time to run it. Now, there's one more important thing that we'll do here. It's nice for us to know, for the calling function to know when the long-run function finished. Okay, so that's where the use of the callback functions is important. So what we do is we would send in long run could expect a callback function, and then what we could do down here when we call long run, instead of saying console.log in here, we would say we would call the callback, and let's say the callback just expects a special message, and it says all done. So basically we're calling the callback and saying, okay, we're all done. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to use I'm going to create the callback function right here. I'm going to use an arrow function, in fact. I'm going to say MSG is the parameter, my arrow, and then the body of the function would just simply console.log and the message. And what you're going to see now is it's the same results, just going to say all done. And here we have utilized asynchronous programming as well as a callback function that calls us back when the asynchronous function is done.